Right, Martin, it's a pleasure to speak to you today. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
It's great to see you, Dave. You're looking rather trim up, pal.
Thank you. I've been trying to get me lockdown workouts in. So first of all, before we start with anything else, mate, I just want to congratulate you on your recent Lockdown Community Award by the Daily Telegraph.
Yeah, mate. It's been quite bizarre, really, all the way through COVID. It's been just an incredible journey. Not many people can say they've had an incredible journey through COVID, but I think it's safe to say that the SPF and certainly myself, I've been on an incredible journey, but been very, very fortunate to have the support that we have during lockdown through the Eccleston Arms Essential Items service, and some great personalities who's joined us along the way.
So tell us about it. What exactly was it? What you was doing?
Yeah, well, what happened? I think everyone can remember the nurse who came on Breakfast TV, who was absolutely devastated. She couldn't get any vital services, any vital provisions. She was doing 18-hour shifts, and there was no supermarkets open at the time. And when the supermarkets was open, there was nothing that she could purchase.
That was like people panic buying, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, mate. You know, it seems like a lifetime ago from then. So I seen that on Breakfast TV, and I just said to my wife, "I've got to do something about this." I phoned up Andrew McKyle from Eccleston Arms, the Bold Hotel in Southport, and other establishments. He's been a great supporter of the SPF from day one. And I said to him, "Andy, you've got to turn your pubs into essential items superstores."
Yeah.
And he said, "No way, you can't do that." And at the time, the pubs were still open, they weren't shut. I said, "Andy," "they're going to shut within the next week or so." I said, "We've just got to help out the community." And I was fairly insistent, and he said to me, "Right, okay, let's do it." 9 hours later, the superstores was open. The transformation was incredible into the pubs.
Yeah.
So we set out to supply food, fresh food to the NHS staff, the vulnerable and the elderly. We got Blackbrook Rugby League Club involved. We had 40 volunteers ready to go out and start delivering. Hold on. Sorry.
That's all right.
Phone call come through. So, like I say, within like 12 hours, everything was ready. We started getting it out there, and then I got a phone call off a Michael Pennington, better known as Johnny Vegas,
right?
Who's been a great supporter of the SPF. And he said, "I've seen what you've been doing, or what you've set up, Martin. It's a great idea, and I want to get involved. I'm coming up from London. I'm going to be spending my time up in St Helens, not in London, during lockdown."
Yeah.
I said, "So I do want to get involved." So we got the rest of our ambassadors involved: Tommy Martin, Lee Braze, Paul Sculthorpe, Martin Murray, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
We got Jack Bennett, good old Jack, the lead singer from Stilia.
I've seen some of the stuff on Facebook where he was knocking on doors, delivering, and then giving them a little singing a song on guitar, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. What we set out to achieve was, at the time, it was all doom and gloom, and it was a bad place for everyone.
Yeah. And
what we wanted to do was to provide a service which was desperately needed, and also to bring a bit of joy and happiness into people's lives.
Yeah.
And I think at the time as well, I think what people didn't realise was these volunteers we had was putting their lives in jeopardy as well.
Yeah.
And they weren't doing it for any personal glory. They was just doing it so people could stay home and stay safe.
Yeah.
And it went ballistic. It went bigger than our wildest dreams. And I can remember me being sat in the same position I am today. And Johnny phoned me up, but this was on the Wednesday after we started. And he said, I'm going to send you a video now. He said, and I think you're going to be quite surprised. So I received a video, and it was off Russell Crowe.
Wow.
Gladiator Russell Crowe. Yeah. Wishing us support and the best of luck. And that went out to 2.5 million views. And I have to say, a little bit embarrassed by this, but I started crying. And the missus said to me, "What's up with you? What are you crying for?" And I just realised the enormity of what just happened.
The impact that you've had, and the fact that it reached out to celebrities like Russell Crowe and all that. And it's massive, isn't it?
So the media just went crazy. And the first 3-4 weeks, it was like 20-hour days.
Yeah.
But it was so needed in the time.
It's for a greater cause, isn't it? So like the fact that you're putting those hours in isn't even an issue, is it? You're trying to improve morale in the community and provide people with essential items.
We have a great relationship with St Helens Council, but they at the time they were stretched to the max. The government kept on throwing them hand grenades, to be honest. Saying you've got to do this, but we're giving you no money for it. And we basically we worked alongside the council to fill that void for the people the amount of phone calls we got of people saying, we've got 2 kids, 3 kids, got no food at all, no food whatsoever. What can we just went out there and we filled in the gaps, and like I say, it was just an incredible experience.
I had a conversation beginning of the week, actually, on another podcast episode, and we kind of take for granted there was kind of 3 tiers of people who were affected by like the COVID epidemic. There was the people who were obviously ill and contracted the virus and who were very poorly. There was the people who had just been made furlough maybe, or who were working from home. So apart from staying in and staying safe, it didn't really maybe affect them. They were able to save money really. And then there was the people who you really can't understand what it's like to not be able to provide food for your family. They were all like at rock bottom. And I think it's something that a lot of people, including myself, you forget about that part of the community and that part of society. And for you lot to step up like that, it's amazing, and understand that there are people out there who needed that help at that time.
Yeah, that's right. The government said that it was sending out essential items packs, but it was just a long wait. It was weeks and weeks before anybody got organised to do that.
Yeah.
And like I say, the phone just didn't stop, and I'm pleased to say we never said no to anybody. We just did what we could. But it then went on to another stage from the actual food. Johnny Vegas was really proactive on this. Was the PPE situation, which was just mind blowing. Last night I watched the Panorama program about the care homes, and how they were left, to basically, for elderly to die and without any support, and it was just heartbreaking. But I can remember a phone call from Knowsley district nurses who phoned me up, and the woman, she was distraught. She said, "Got 100 care staff. Yeah, we got 100 nurses. 10 of them are off with coronavirus, and we've not got one piece of PPE. We've not got one piece whatsoever. Can you help us out?" So within a couple of hours, we got 2,000 pieces over to them through Johnny. And just for people like that to be put in that position
I know.
Just, well,
Crazy, you know? I know, mind blowing that.
yeah.
People are trying to help people and save people's lives, and they've not even got the protection themselves to be able to do that job.
That's right, you know, and it sent shivers down my spine thinking of those conversations I was having. Just total mismanagement of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, there's just no excuse. But hey,
yeah. But you did a fantastic job, mate. You can hold your head up high. I know you're a humble person, and you'll put praise on the rest of the team rather than yourself and that. Like, but you all stepped up and provided something that was really needed in the community. So
yeah, like you say about the team, even to the end, we still had 40 odd people. You know, I was just basically, I live in Winsford.
Yeah.
I don't live in St Helens anymore. I was just basically the fat controller. And I was just sat here in the garden just directing things. So without the support of, you know, Blackbrook Rugby Club were just immense, absolutely immense. And the staff at Eccleston Arms went above the call of duty. They're just phenomenal. There's so many people, you know,
awesome.
And like I say, I couldn't do it without them.
No, fantastic. So we've spoke there about the SPF, the Steve Prescott Foundation. I'm conscious that there'll be people listening to this or watching it who might never have heard of the Steve Prescott Foundation, who are outside of St Helens, outside of rugby league. So just give us a brief background, Martin, how it got started and what it stands for.
Oh, a brief background, right? Steve Prescott, lucky enough to, he was the most inspirational man anybody could ever meet. He was a fantastic rugby league player. Mm-hmm. People often forget about his exploits on the pitch, you know, because of his Herculean efforts off the pitch. I would say he was one of the first attacking fullbacks. He was a little bit before his time. But in 2006, he got diagnosed with pseudomyxoma peritoni, which is a rare form of abdomen cancer. He got told he had 3 to 6 months to live. Mm-hmm. And he underwent what they called a mother of all surgeries, which was in Basingstoke, which he removed a 24-pound tumour from his stomach. A couple of days after he had that operation, he went on the treadmill and he done a mile walk, and that was the nature of the man. Yeah. When I got told about Steve, I ran a rugby league fans forum, and all my grandparents passed away with cancer. And I said to him, I said to me, Nan, who was the last one, said I was going to do something for cancer and never did. So when I heard about Steve, it just seemed right that we started to support Steve. Yeah. So set up a bucket collection at a Saints versus Hull game, which was happening in 9 days' time after the news broke. And got a phone call off a guy called Mike Denning, who is the chairman of the SPF. Never met Mike before. And he said, Prescott family, he was a close friend of Steve's. He said, do you just want to get on with the rest of what time he's got left? And I said, well, that's great, Mike. I said, but, you know, Steve's got wife and 2 kids. I said, and they're going to need, you know, some support for when the inevitable happens. Yeah. So Mike talked him into going ahead with a bucket collection. Mike joined me, and we raised £8,900 from that bucket collection, which was a phenomenal event. Yeah. And we went on then to just doing other fundraising events for the Prescott family, which went into a trust fund for the kids. And then I got to meet Steve, and it was one of those moments. The first time I met him was it was the Hilton in St Helens. It's now Shannon Court and different names it's had. And we had a gala dinner. And I looked at him and I thought, if anybody could beat cancer, it's going to be Steve Prescott. You know, you could just, I can picture him now and him looking at me, and I just knew that he had so much fire in his eyes, you know, so much will to live. Anyway, we went to Saints versus Wigan supporters game for the Christie's Cancer Hospital. This was about 6 months after the original diagnosis, and we raised a significant amount of money by then. And Steve turned around to me. He said, "You've raised enough money for the fund now. Let's raise money for the Christie's Cancer Hospital and the Rugby League Benevolent Fund, who have supported him." So he said, "What can we do?" And I just turned around to him, and I was joking. I said, "Well, you can walk from Hull to the grand final via all the Super League clubs."
Yeah.
And he said, "Can we?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. You can do anything if you set your mind to it." And that was like 7 weeks away. So I set out about organising it, and we thought we might raise £20,000 or something, something like that. So that's what we set out to do. And Steve, he had chemotherapy, and he already had blisters on his feet when we at the start.
Yeah.
So I thought this is going to be just incredible for him to do this. Anyway, every day he really, really struggled, but that's when I realised that Steve Prescott wasn't wired up right. He was a little different gravy, because the suffering that I've seen him endure, but he would not give in. He was doing 20 miles a day. He was at back of the group all the time. He was, like I say, every day was a real struggle for him, but he would not give in.
Sorry to interrupt you, Martin.
Yeah.
People obviously look up to Steve, and they'll use him as inspiration, especially when people are carrying out these like massive feats of endurance that the SPF put on. People use Steve as inspiration. What do you think Steve was using as inspiration to do those challenges? What was his drive? What was he motivated? What was his motivation?
All it was with Steve was survival.
Right.
That was his main motivation, and especially at that time, because he looked at it, and he had just this drive, this feeling of he wanted to beat cancer, and he knew the only way he could beat cancer was by getting his body in the fittest shape, the fittest form. And Lindsay always says this, that Steve was a better person when he was doing a challenge. Because it took his mind off being a cancer sufferer to being a cancer survivor, and that was the main difference for him. You know, that's what myself personally, I had a few problems at the time, and Steve taught me positive mental attitude. And if you don't have that mental attitude to get over adversity, then you're going to keep on that couch. If you don't change your mindset to be positive and to get out there and to make the most of your situation, to overcome adversity, then you're not going to get any better.
Exactly.
You know, so, and that's what he wanted to show people on these challenges. You know, the first walk we did, it raised £79,000. The money was phenomenal and made a huge difference, but it wasn't about the money. It was to show people that I've been told I've got cancer. I've been told I only had a few months to live. I'm still here. I'm still living a relatively normal life, but you know, I'm going to beat cancer. You know, and the following year we did, the walk came to be a 250-mile walk. it was a different Steve Prescott.
Yeah.
It was a Steve Prescott that nobody could keep up with. From the guy who was at the back, he was at the front with Tommy Martin. And my problems then as the organiser, nobody could keep up with him. So he was moaning, saying, I've come for a walk with Steve, but I can't keep up with him. But I couldn't say to Steve, slow down.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't in his psyche. His psyche was all about winning, getting there as fast as he could, and improving his fitness.
Mm-hmm.
Walks then never came. Walks were not good enough for him then.
Yeah.
We had to go on to things more challenging. So in 2009, we did the Carnegie Challenge, which we recreated last year.
Yeah.
That was a bike ride from Catalans to Calais, from Dover to Windsor Castle, a 26-mile dragon boat from Windsor Castle to Teddington Lock, and then a half marathon running to Wembley. That was the first major challenge, extreme challenge. Now, for someone who had terminal cancer to be able to do this, again, it was just incredible. It was a great experience to walk around the pitch at the first ever Wembley, to deliver the match ball, again, was just a great experience for us all. And to see Steve, smash it. He was really thriving at the time.
Yeah.
And then 2010, we did the Land's End to John O'Groats Extreme Challenge, which was cycle the jog. And then on top of that, to climb 3 national peaks, Ben Nevis, Scarfell.
What kind of happened when each of these events had finished? Was Steve straight on the ball? Right, we're going to do this next. Was he already planning the next one, or was it more of a team effort, more of a team planning?
It was always, at the time, it was always team planning between myself and Steve.
Right.
But after an event, it was during the event, never ever going to do this again. I'm never going to put my body through this again.
Yeah.
And then a day or 2 days after, he'd phone me up, right, what we're doing now?
We're doing this.
And he definitely got, like I said before, Lindsay said about him being a better person while he was doing challenges. Again, it was giving him that mindset to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
Steve was uncomfortable at telling people what was going on with him, what he was actually going through on a daily basis. And I think if you read his book, 1 in a Million, which is still out there, that tells you what he was going through on a daily basis. Right. And, even I didn't get to see what he was doing. Obviously, Lindsay did. But people out there just took it for granted. They seen him looking so well, right? So fit and being able to do these challenges. They didn't realise what he was going through. And when we go to 2012, when he done his last challenge, which was the 48-hour challenge from Hull to Old Trafford. That was a 1 mile swim across the River Humber, 138 mile cycle to the River Mersey, a mile swim across the River Mersey, and then a 26-mile kayak to Old Trafford in 48 hours.
I think is it. I've been fortunate to attend the St Helens Pride of St Helens Awards on a few occasions, and there's a video that gets shown, and I think it's Paul Sculthorpe that is talking. I think it's about that event where he says the conditions were so bad, there's no way he was going to be able to swim in it, and they already got there, and Steve Prescott had already jumped in and started swimming. He was like, well, can't let him go on his own, so they was ready for quitting, but the main man wasn't.
The story behind that, Scully actually says, I've never been a quitter, but this is the closest I've ever come as quitting anything in my life. Yeah. And I can remember that clear as day, what happened. During the night, it must have been 60-mile-an-hour winds and horizontal rain over Saddleworth Moor. And the footage is there for everyone to see.
Yeah,
it was just incredible. You had Chris Joint, ex-Saints captain. He was riding along the East Lancs, and he had his hand behind Steve just to keep him, grabbing hold of him just to keep him upright.
Yeah.
But Steve wouldn't give in. And then we get into the hotel at Liverpool. We get in there at 6:30. We had to be back out for the swim at 7:45. So they had a quick shower, and we get into this car park, and the tide was just, it was just manic. And we didn't have enough safety boats. Some didn't turn up, and the guy, the head of the safety boat said, "Listen, guys, I'm telling you now, you can't do this. It's not safe to do this. You're all going to end up in Dublin if you if you try to swim across the River Mersey. The tide is that strong; it's going to take you out."
Jesus.
And Steve just up on a car, and I apologise to the person's car who it was, but he just jumped up on this car. He said, "I've come all this way," he said, "and I'm not going to pack you now. You either you support me or you don't, but I'm going to swim across." So then Scully said, "Well, if you're going, I'm going." And they all, there would be about 18 of them who put their hands up. And then we had to just sort out 10 people to go.
Yeah.
So they jumped into the River Mersey, and we started up at the furthest point that we could. And we drove over to the other side, hoping to meet them at near the ferry terminal,
right,
or up from the ferry terminal. And it became evident the tide was just taking them out more and more. So the more they were swimming, the more further away they were getting, and it did become dangerous.
Wow.
But they all got to within 5 meters of touching the wall, and we got the safety boats to pick them up. And that was incredible. And just after that, Steve then had complications. He had obstructions in his bowels, and he was in Salford Royal. His intestines had packed up. I look at it now, and I often think that challenge was too tough. It was too tough. By far, it was too tough, and it probably took too much out of Steve. Whether regret putting the challenge on, it's hard. That's hard. But like I say, Steve suffered afterwards, which led to him taking on the first multivisceral transplant operation.
Yeah.
How that came about, like I say, he went through Christmas, New Year on a TPM machine, which meant he got fed by liquid, kept him alive, and he was permanently on the internet. I'll tell you just one story. This just sums up Steve. Like I say, we went through Christmas, New Year, and we was looking at planning events for 2013.
Yeah. Things
was put on a hold a bit because of Steve's condition. And I went round to his house once, and he said to me, right, he said, "I'll tell you what I'm doing this year." I said, "Go on, tell me." He said, "I'm climbing Kilimanjaro." Right. This is a guy who's not had a bacon butty for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "Yeah, I'm climbing Kilimanjaro." I said, "Okay, Steve." I said, "I'll look into it." Anyway, I goes home, and I looks into it, and I goes back to his house 2 days later, and I says, yeah, you're climbing Kilimanjaro. I said, it's going to take 9 days and it's going to cost X amount of money. 9 days? 9 days? That fat bastard Chris Moyles does it in 9 days. We're doing it extreme. And I said, mate, no. I said, you've just got to get yourself right. I said, don't worry about the challenges.
Yeah.
He said, I'm telling you now. He said, I've looked it up. We can do it in 5 days. I knew he was going to say this to me. And I said, well, the success rate of doing it in 5 days is 20%. I said, you know, it's really, really, you know, it's madness. And he said, we're doing it that way. So I put it out there, and, you know, Steve had all the intentions of doing it. And we got a team of 13 who took part in the first ever Kilimanjaro trip for us. And we got 13 up and down in 5 days. But Steve sadly didn't make it. He got in touch with a surgeon called Dr. Anil Vaidia, who was at Oxford Churchill Hospital. And this went over for months, where Anil had done some transplants, but nobody with pseudomyxoma. Anyway, he talked Anil into going to the British Medical Board, who had to then go to the World Medical Board on getting this operation, giving him the green light to go ahead with it.
Yeah.
Steve had to go down to Oxford, prove that he was fit enough, which at the time, like say, he was only on liquids, but he had to show them that he was mentally fit enough to do it, and also physically, and he had to do some exercises. He was down there for 5 days, and then they got the green light to go ahead with the operation. The trouble was with the operation, Steve had a rare blood group. He couldn't get anybody with the same blood group. But time was running out. Steve wouldn't have lasted without the operation. You know, he was deteriorating pretty rapid then.
Yeah.
Everything was failing on him. And he underwent the first ever multivisceral transplant operation in the world, which basically meant his whole stomach was took out and a new stomach put in. And it was a 32-hour operation. The operation was an incredible success.
Yeah.
You know, I can remember seeing pictures of Steve afterwards, with thumbs up, and you know, we thought a miracle had happened. And Steve would be still here now, and the story would be a lot different. But he got what they called a graft versus host disease, where his antibodies rejected the donor's antibodies.
Right.
And sadly, you know, he passed away, which was, you know, it just lost my brother.
Yeah.
And
I remember the whole of St Helens came to a standstill, didn't it? And I remember the funeral at the top of North Road and that, and the whole of St Helens just came to a stop, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. That was just a mark of respect that the man had. I can remember the England Rugby League team. They all came to the funeral. All the Saints team was there, and yeah, it was just sad time. But you know, Steve always wanted the charity to continue if possible, but that comes down onto big shoulders. And there was only one person who could make that decision, and that was Lindsay Prescott. Whether she wanted to continue. So Lindsay was 1,000,000% behind continuing the charity. We did not know what we was going to do. We asked our ambassadors if they wanted to continue the charity. And we came about moving the charity forward. We do not put on any events without an SPF ambassador taking part. They're basically there instead of Steve.
Yeah.
So at the time, we donated £500,000 to the Christies and the Benevolent Fund. And from 2013 to 2017, we raised £1 million in that period, that 4-year period.
Yeah, fantastic.
It goes back to what I was saying before about people didn't realise how bad Steve was while he was here, how ill he was while he was here. And I think it only dawned on people what Herculean efforts he did while he was here, and that's why we got so much support. In that period, and that period, God, he would have loved every event we did. To be Kilimanjaro, we went back up to Kilimanjaro, and we took 40 odd people, and they ended up being the Guinness World Record holders for the highest game of rugby league.
Oh, nice.
He would have absolutely loved that.
Yeah.
And all the challenges that we've done since.
What's been the toughest one since then, Martin? What's been the toughest one since kind of 2013 that you've done?
Like I said, for me, I've been sat back organising the events. I think we've done 2 Everest events. We've done another Kilimanjaro. Last year, we done the Carnegie Challenge, which Taylor Prescott took on.
We'll get on to Taylor in a minute, because I want to talk about his ultra marathon consecutive day thing in a minute. We'll touch on that in a minute.
The dog's barking. But as regards the toughest, they've all been incredibly tough. We've had, a few issues along the way with people's health scares. But I think we did try to do the ice game of football up Kilimanjaro.
Right.
But that failed because the weather wasn't right. When the guys got to the top of Kilimanjaro, the clouds come in. There was a snowstorm and everything else. So I think, for the guys not to complete a challenge, I think that has to go down as the toughest. Because it wasn't completed. But, you just got to... Everyone who's gone out on a challenge of these natures, it's changed their lives. They become friends for life with people. The camaraderie, they're still in the WhatsApp groups and everything else. They still keep in touch. But, those people all are just special people who's done that.
You kind of like all come to those people who sign up to these challenges. You're going through adversity together, aren't you? So whether in times of war and in times of epidemics like this current COVID epidemic now, the bonds you build with people, and you're trying to help each other get through this adversity, and it builds people up, and it changes you for life, doesn't it? Those experiences.
Yeah, it certainly does. It is a wartime footing. I suppose when you put on an SPF shirt, you're going to war. I think that's a good analogy, to be honest. But like I say, it's priceless for some people, and everyone's got a different story of why they want to do it. Everyone wants to support Steve's legacy. Everyone wants to support the Christies or the Rugby League Benevolent Fund, but you need a personal motivation as well. And, it could be, you've had a breakup, or you've lost somebody, or something like that. And it does get you through. Some of the stories that we hear is just incredible. And then we've also got people like the survivors. Since Steve's operation, there's now 12 people who's now leading relatively normal lives
Off
through
the back of
Steve's
his
bravery.
first, right? Brilliant, yeah.
You know, you've got Adam Alderson. Adam is just an incredible guy. He was the second person to undertake the transplant. He went out on the Mongol Rally, which is travelling all over Europe,
Right.
all over the continent, through Russia and through everywhere. That was an incredible challenge. He's just about to do Land's End to John O'Groats challenge on a monkey bike, which is about 18 inches high. And he's going to be doing that in 38 days. But, in 2 days, 38 hours. Steve, to see people like Adam taking part in these events, you know, he'd be thrilled. Yeah. And then you've got, when I was doing this latest walk, one of the latest patients, the 13th patient to undertake the transplant, a guy called Stephen Ashley. He joined me for a 6-mile walk, and it was great. A huge honour for me, a huge privilege for me to be alongside somebody who just bought a motorhome, again living a relatively normal life. To be with him, knowing that he wouldn't be here without Steve. Yeah, you know, that's priceless, to be honest.
So what was the challenge you've been doing then recently, Martin? Was it 10K? How many 10Ks did you end up walking? running, sorry.
Well, like I say, they call me the fat controller. I'm not the fittest, I'm not the healthiest of people. But this year, when COVID struck and we set out the Eccleston Arms essential items, it was hard times for every charity. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how are we going to survive? Because it was quite clear that most of our events for this year would have to be cancelled. Yeah. We can't survive if we don't have any money coming in. So we did the Eccleston Arms essential items, and that was just really to help people overcome adversity and support our local community. And there was no money influence there whatsoever. But I had to come up with things that was going to raise us some cash. So we cancelled the Peru trip that we was going to do. We was supposed to go Machu Picchu. Mm-hmm. We cancelled the Tower to Tower, where we was doing a bike ride from Paris to London. We've just had to cancel the Yorkshire Free Peaks, which should have been happening in September. You were joining us on that, David. Yeah. So we had no money revenue coming in. So I came up with us doing a relay where we had to do run from Land's End to John O'Groats in a week, which we had to get 20 people for 7 days to run a 10K run. Yeah. Which equated to 896 miles. And within the space of three days, I got 140 people signed up. It was phenomenal. And I put myself forward to running a 10K. Yeah. I've got to say, I've always said we do the St Helens 10K, which we've done now for 10 years. And my excuse, when people say to me, "You're not doing the 10K," I always say to them, "I'll do the 10K if you come out with me at 4 o'clock in the morning on the day of the 10K to organise the event," which I normally run. I normally walk about 25K on that day.
On the day, yeah.
Yeah, so that's always been my excuse. But I've had to go from being a fat controller to kind of putting my hand up out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely.
So I did the 10K. The missus thought I did a few live videos at the time. It was like a walk, run. Yeah. Or my kind of running. And it looked like I was having a heart attack. on many occasions. And I have to say, it was the toughest thing I had done personally.
Yeah.
So,
but it's relative, isn't it? It's relative as well, though, isn't it, Martin? Like, that was your Kilimanjaro, do you know what I mean? It's all relative to the individual. You know what I mean?
You're correct there, Dave. You know, I see people doing extreme events all the time. But, you know, I get more satisfaction out of seeing somebody who has changed their life, changed their circumstances, improved the fitness.
Definitely, yeah.
To actually doing an event,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I think I encourage a lot of when people see me put my name up, put my hands forward to do the 10K. I think I encourage a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
So that event raised us, I think, about 17 grand, which was fantastic, more than what we thought. And then, as often happens, most of the ideas that we have for the SPF, the ones I come up with normally happen during the night. So I woke up on a Tuesday morning at 3:23, and I thought, we'll do the Challenge Cup should have been on July the 18th, the final. So I came up with doing a virtual walk, run, skipping, hopping, whichever way you want to do, from your local club to Wembley. So again, I put my name forward for this. It was 216 miles for me. And
my dog's barking now.
No problem. And I had to do it was over 30 days. So it worked out 6.75 miles a day walk for me, which, again, never walked away from the couch. You know, never had the time to do that as well. You know, because you normally do one event and moving on to another event.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, it's the time as well as, you know, the physical exertion.
Yeah.
So I set out, we got about 44 people signed up to do the event. And it just gave people something to do during when they was furloughed or, you know, again, filling up people's time.
That was a massive part of it, wasn't it? Because people had lost their routine and their structures, and research shows that if you've not got a routine or a structure in place, that's when negative thoughts, negative behaviours start creeping in. So to give someone a structure and that, definitely
definitely.
People want it, yeah.
You've got the gyms weren't open as well.
Yeah.
So I think at the time, you could only do 1 hour a day or something like that. I think that just got lifted outside. So it was great timing, and it was a great event. And myself personally, before we get on to Taylor, I missed a few days out just through different things that needed to be done. And it soon went up to 9 miles a day, my average had to be.
Yeah.
And I was under real pressure. My body could take 6 miles a day. To get my body back after me walking 6 miles a day would take me about 2 hours, 3 hours, because of me having arthritis or whatever. But when it got to 9 miles a day, I was under pressure. So I did 6 miles in the morning, or around about that, and then I got a treadmill in, my daughter's treadmill in, and I done 3 miles at night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was I can't tell you how much I enjoyed parts of it. From where I live, I've got a golf course at the back of me, and within half a mile, there's the River Weaver.
Right.
I didn't know it was there.
All right.
I'm embarrassed to say I did not know it was there. So
So you got out
many
exploring, seeing the local scenery then, yeah? Understanding what's on your doorstep.
Many of the walks was going out there, and some of the sites, some of the things I put on Facebook, some of the pictures, just fantastic, just beautiful. And I hope to continue.
Yeah.
Not walking 6 miles a day, but getting out there and walking more and
There's a lot to be said for it.
local
There's a lot to be
beauty.
said just getting out, exploring what's around you or where you live and that, like, and being out in nature. There's a lot to be said for that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it clears your head as well, Dave, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think we're going to see, as a result, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen now with local lockdowns. They've been discussing that on the news recently, haven't they? But there's going to be a massive kind of shift in mental health when people start getting back to, like, the normal lives and that. So that is going to be, people are going to need coping strategies and coping mechanisms, and just getting out walking in nature is going to be massive for people. Some simple things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So on this with Taylor Prescott.
Yeah, so bring us back to current time now. So we've just witnessed Taylor doing some massive ultra marathon over consecutive days. How did all that come about?
Well, we started off with the Wembley Challenge.
Yeah.
And then I think it was about 5-6 days into it. And Lindsay phoned me up, and she said to me, Taylor wants to do 7 ultra marathons in 7 days. He wants to run from St Helens to Wembley. And I actually said, it brought me back to when Steve wanted to do the 5 marathons in 5 days over in 2010. I actually said, I think it's too tough.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor is an incredibly fit lad, and he's got the mindset of his dad. But to do 30.85 miles a day for 7 consecutive days, when the furthest he's ever ran before is 22 miles,
Jesus.
I just thought, it's madness. It's total madness. But you can't tell a Prescott no, whether that's Lindsay, whether it's Steve, whether it's Taylor.
So how old's Taylor now? Sorry, how old is he?
He's 18 years old.
Right.
And for him, you know, like I say, it was his idea. For him to do it off his own back was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
For him to actually put into practice and to completely smash it, which is what he did, just So
can you remember, Martin? Because he did it around Ruskin, didn't he? He did it around Ruskin Drive.
Yeah.
So how many laps is like 30 mile around Ruskin?
Right. Well, having walked around there quite a few times on my doing what I was doing, 4 laps was just over a mile. So he had to do 120 laps a day. Now, when we come about the logistics of the event, at first he was going to do it along the road, and we was going to plot some routes for him. But for him to, logistically wise, it was hard for him to be at Ruskin because of the monotony of it.
Yeah.
But we could get people to be with him, to run alongside him. Lindsay was there every second of the challenge, providing him with nutritional stuff, water. He had toilets there, so logistically wise, it made it a lot easier. But I suppose mentally, it made it harder for him.
Yeah.
So it was, you know, there was 2 sides to the challenge. But on the first day, he smashed it. The first day, he ran 30.85 miles in 4 hours 52 minutes. Now, his dad's best time for a London marathon was 4 hours 24. So that just puts it into context, you know, what he did.
Unbelievable.
But the second day, he hit the wall the second day. He really struggled on the second day, but he got stronger and stronger as the event went on. And I went on the 6th day, and we had George Riley, you know, one of our ambassadors.
Yeah.
He was there, and there was a guy called Dave Howarth there as well. Dave Howarth had just done 50 10Ks in 50 days for the SPF. So you had two good runners there.
Yeah.
Right? And Taylor had done about 20K on that day, and he couldn't keep up with him.
All right.
He was flying, absolutely flying, and he just couldn't keep up with him. And he was just in that mindset where I've got to get this challenge done.
Yeah.
And he was flying around there. But, you know, a lot is said about going to the Pride of St Helens. One of the reasons why the Pride of St Helens was set up was to highlight the great youth of what's in the town, or the great people that's in the town.
Yeah.
Everybody criticises the town, criticises the youth, but you've got someone there and his mates who came running with him, his mates who's joining challenges with us. I see it all the time, the great young people we have. And not enough is said about the youth of today.
Yeah, I know.
And it's just, you know, it's fantastic to see that we have got great youngsters. You know, we've got to highlight these youngsters.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
They're going to carry us through, you know, and they're going to get us through bad times. And, you know, Taylor Prescott is going to get the SPF through. Taylor,
they're the future of the town, aren't they, as well? Like the young people now, young adults coming through, they're the future of St Helens, aren't they, at the end of the day? And it's a small minority that is causing havoc and that, but that's just a generalisation, and people are too quick to generalise. And the Pride of St Helens is a great event for highlighting the good that comes from the town. And you come out buzzing. You're buzzing when you're there, like, because of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes that you're not aware of. Yeah, fantastic.
But, you know, with social media, the way it is now, it highlights the bad, you know, and it doesn't often give enough praise to the good. You know, so Taylor said, I also wanted my dad to be proud of me, and Jesus, how proud would Steve be watching him do that? Just incredible. And, you know, I've got to say about Kobe, Taylor's younger brother, he done most of it on his bike with Taylor as well. He's 13 years old.
Yeah,
he's had a big knee injury, but again, he's a chip off the old block. So you know, it was just fantastic to see. And that event, I think Taylor's raised about 13-14 grand on his own, and the event itself has raised over £35,000. So that turns into what would be a bad year for the SPF. It turns, we've overcome adversity. Steve taught us how to overcome adversity. And, you know, at the end of the year, we're going to still be able to give a sizable amount to our chosen charities. Yeah. You know, in what is a bad year for everyone. To be honest with you, it's been a great year for the SPF. Yeah.
It goes back to what you said before, Martin, about mindset shift. If you turn problems into challenges and have a shift of mindset and come up with solutions instead of problems, and we adapt, we're really good at, as humans, of just adapting to situations. At first, COVID was like, oh shit, what's going on? We're losing our jobs and all this. But after 2 weeks, we adapt and we come up with new solutions and structures. So you just
that's right. I'm not just talking about what we've been through, but you see how the community from a wide got together through COVID. It did bring out the best in people, and I think a certain percentage has carried on to now, but you do see, and it makes me sad, that some people have still gone back into the old ways. You know, but when you see people looking out for each other the way they did, You know, and that's what we need to continue, and we need to get rid of this selfishness that's in society. You know, you look at the weather today, and it's absolutely glorious all over the country, which is fantastic. But sadly, we're going to see 10,000 people on the beach at Bournemouth and Brighton and things like that, putting people at risk. You know, it's inevitable. So, you know, that side of it, I think people really do have to have a step back and just look at the consequences of their actions more.
Yeah, I heard there was a cracking quote on an episode that we did previously, and I'm going to butcher it, but it was something like, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. So, like, properly thinking of other people a lot more rather than just being in yourself all the time. I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, really good quote.
Yeah, that's a brilliant quote, Dave. Certainly is.
Well, thanks, mate. I appreciate your time this morning. Just before we finish off, Martin, the sort of mantra that Steve Prescott is famous for coming up with, what the mind believes the body achieves. I think everyone can take something from that, can't they? As long as you've got the mindset and you've got the goals to strive for, it's your mind that's going to carry you through. Whether your body's able, it's your mindset in it at the end of the day. Yeah,
exactly, mate. You know, there's never a more truer saying than that. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's got me through many a dark time. It's got every SPF supporter who's done any event. They all would have had that saying behind them. Yeah, and I'll tell you a little story.
Like you know, my wife Laura. Like we did the Yorkshire Three Peaks last time you did it through Handypair, the Handypair company.
Yeah.
And Laura was going through a tough time with personal issues and her dad and that, and she had to use that mantra to get her to complete that task. Yeah, that event. Yeah.
Superb.
Yeah. But again, mate, thanks for your time, and enjoy the rest of the sun on today.
Cheers, Dave, and thanks for all your support, mate, and thanks for giving us a bit of airtime to tell people about the great man, Steve Prescott.
No problem, mate. Thanks for your time. Cheers, Martin.
Cheers, mate.
See you again.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.